What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be checking out TCL 30 V5G tips and tricks and hidden features. So if you want to make the most out of your device, then definitely stick around and watch this video. But let's get started. Now, the first thing that I want to show you is a quick and easy way to pull up the camera app on your device. And this is already enabled by default, so you don't have to set anything up. But essentially, all you have to do is double press on the power button and it'll pull up the camera app. And you can do this anywhere throughout the operating system. So we'll do this in the app drawer. There we go. And then you can even have the display off. And if you double press on the power button, it'll pull up the camera app. So certainly very convenient. Now moving on, with the TCL 30 V5G, we do have a pretty large battery at 4,500 milliamp hours. However, if you find yourself in a situation where you really want to extend your battery life, then let me show you how to do that. So what you're going to do is pull down the shade here, go to the gear in the upper right corner, that'll take you over to the settings. Then from here, we're going to go down until we see Smart Manager. Then you'll see right here, Battery, and we have several different options. So the first option is normal saving mode. So essentially, if you enable this, it's going to cut out a lot of background tasks. And essentially, you can see right here, based on 85% charge, it will give you 6 hours and 30 minutes of usage. So we'll enable that. And you can see right away, the screen has dimmed down a bit, and you can see we're in dark mode as well. So again, you'll be able to do most of the things that you typically do on your device, but it is still going to cut down quite a few background tasks to preserve battery life. But heading back to where we were, I'm going to turn that off. So we're back to the normal setting, and then we'll enable super saving mode. And you can see with super saving mode enabled, I'll be getting 8.5 hours, so 2 additional hours of usage. But once I tap on enable, you can see that we have a description of what this does. So get the maximum battery life by applying a simplified black home screen and limiting the number of usable apps. So we'll enable that. And you can see immediately we are in this screen right here. This is literally the entire operating system, at least in this mode. So we have the phone app, messages, clock, and settings. So definitely very limited, but if you find yourself in a situation where you absolutely must extend your battery life as long as possible, then this is certainly a very helpful mode, as at least you'll have access to the ability to make phone calls and send text messages. But then to get out of here, all you have to do is tap on this button in the upper right corner, and then now things are back to normal here. So these two options here for extending the battery life on the device are certainly very helpful. Now with the TCL 30 V5G, we have a really bright and vibrant display here. And what's awesome too is that TCL gives us a lot of ways to customize this. So let me show you how. So what you're gonna do is pull down the shade, go to the settings, then from here, you're gonna scroll down to Next Vision. And then you'll see that we have 2 of these already enabled by default. We have image enhancement and video and game enhancement. So I'm gonna leave those on. You can always toggle them off if you wanna give that a try. But further down here, we have an option called Screen Color. So we can actually make some adjustments to the actual color and temperature of the display. So you can see by default, it's set to Vivid. You can also switch it over to Natural. That gives it kind of a warmer look and feel. We can even go to Advanced. And once we're here, we have some settings related to the saturation. So we can change that as well. And then we also have a slider here so that we can change things from the default to a colder look and even to a much warmer look as well. So it's definitely nice that we have all those different customizations available when it comes to the display on this device. So I definitely recommend trying these out to really see which particular setting best suits you. But going back here, you can see that we have some other options as well. So we have reading mode. So if you want to optimize the display to give you a reading experience as comfortable as reading physical books, then you can do that. So that's pretty nice. I haven't really seen that on too many other devices, so certainly a nice unique feature there from TCL. We also have eye comfort mode. So this is especially helpful towards the end of the day as you can filter out blue light. So once that's enabled, it'll make things a lot warmer here. And then there's also sunlight display. So it'll increase readability under sunlight. So that is enabled right now. You can also unenable that. But essentially in this area, we have a bunch of different options related to customizing the display so that you can have the best experience possible. Now with the TCL 30 V5G, we have a very large display at 6.67 inches. Now, when holding this phone with one hand, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to reach certain portions of the display on the phone. But thankfully, TCL has come up with a very clever solution to take care of this. So let me show you how. So what we're gonna be doing is putting the phone in one-handed mode. So to access this, you're actually gonna pull down the shade here and then swipe over and you'll see it right there. So one-handed mode, once that's enabled, you'll see that everything is very shrunken down here. You can also long press on the corner to drag and resize it. But essentially, we have a mini phone here. So you can do everything that you typically do on the device. It's just much smaller. And of course, hence the name of one-handed mode, you can go through this with just one hand. Now, in addition to that, there are further customizations. So you can go to the gear here to pull up the settings for one-handed mode. And again, you can hold on to the corner to resize this. But if you do want to pick some other default sizes, there's 3.5, which was the original size. There's also 4 and 4.5. So it's definitely nice that you can customize this, and it's definitely a very useful feature, especially on a phone like this one, with the display being as large as it is. Now that's one method to access one-handed mode, but there's actually another method as well. So let me show you how to do that. So you can access one-handed mode using a gesture. Essentially, once that's enabled, all you have to do is just swipe your finger from the home button to either side, and you can see it immediately puts things in one-handed mode here. And another thing about this too, which you probably noticed already, and it does say it right here, but you can touch the outer area to get out of one-handed mode. So definitely a nice thing to have here, and it is also convenient that you can either access it using a gesture or you can pull down the shade. Now, one feature that's especially popular with Android, whether it's a TCL Android device or really any Android phone from nearly any company, that is having the ability to split the screen. So you can put one app up top and then the other app on the bottom half. And then you can even decide on how much of the app you want to fill up each half. So TCL does have that, of course, here with the TCL 30 V5G, except they have a really cool way to access it. So you can actually access this with just 3 fingers. So to do the split screen gesture, all you have to do is swipe up with 3 fingers. You can see right there, it splits things. Then from here, we can pick apps for the top and bottom. I'm gonna do Chrome up top here. And then for the app on the bottom half, I'm gonna go with the calculator. So you can see we have the calculator right here. Then we have Chrome up here. And then if I want to, I can also move this further down or further up to give us more space or less space depending on which app it is. And then if you want one of the apps to completely take over, then you can slide this one way or the other, which is pretty cool. We also have a toggle bar right here. And you can see that it actually can shrink one of the apps to kind of make it a floating app, which is pretty cool. You can see some other options as well. You can fold it in, you can resize it, you can switch it. So let's do fold. So you can see now the calculator app is floating here in the corner. You can also resize that, of course, as I mentioned. So definitely pretty cool, and features like this are things that you'd expect more with a much higher end phone than a device like this one. So in general, I'm a really big fan of all the various software features that we are getting here with the device. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to take a screenshot with the TCL 30 V5G, except TCL actually has a really cool way of doing it. So kind of similar to what I showed you with the split screen gesture, where you swipe up with 3 fingers, to take a screenshot, you just swipe down with 3 fingers. And you can see right there, it took the screenshot. And then you can also take a screenshot by pressing down on the volume down and power buttons at the same time. So pretty cool there that we do have 2 different methods to take a screenshot with the TCL 30V 5G. Now the next thing I want to show you are some pretty cool home screen settings. So to get to this, you're going to need to hold down on the home screen, and then you'll see right there, home settings. So the first thing we have here is the home screen style. So by default, we do have an app drawer in addition to the actual home screen. But if you do want to simplify things, you do have the ability here to set it to home screen only. So all of your apps will be on your home screen, and then you won't have the app drawer at all. You also have the ability to make some adjustments to the grid size here. We also have the ability to fill in empty cells, so if you enable that, it will automatically fill empty cells when apps are moved. So kind of similar to iOS in that regard. Now this one is actually pretty awesome. So I'm not really a big fan of swiping over and having the Google feed here. I just feel like it's kind of a distraction. So you can actually go here and disable that completely. And then now you can't swipe over at all. So you won't see the Google feed there accidentally or even on purpose for that matter. Now here's another option that you might want to consider adjusting. This is adding an icon to the home screen. So right now this is enabled by default. So if you do download a new app, it will immediately pop up on your home screen. Now, if you're actually a big fan of the app drawer and you prefer only a limited number of apps being on your home screen, then you might want to turn this off so that when you do end up installing apps, they'll just end up in the app drawer instead of just flooding your entire home screen. And then of course, even with this not enabled, you can always place any app that you want on the actual home screen itself. It's just not going to be doing it automatically. Now I already showed you some ways to change the color and saturation of the actual display on the device, but there is another section with some other display settings, including some that you're probably familiar with already, but maybe some others that you're not. So what you're going to do is go down here to display. It's right above Next Vision, which again is where those other color enhancement options are located. But once we're in display, there's a few things here to consider. The first one is adaptive brightness. So if you want the brightness of your device to change based on how bright your surroundings are, then you can enable that. That's definitely pretty nice because if you're indoors, you won't need the phone to be as bright compared to if you're outdoors. For the most part, if you're outdoors and you have adaptive brightness on, it's going to crank your display brightness all the way up to 100%. Whereas if you're indoors, sure, it's nice to have a display that's at 100% brightness. I have it at 100% for the purpose of making these videos. But if you want to save some battery, then at least it will optimize the display to kind of tone it down a bit when you're inside. Now another option here is the sleep mode. So by default, it's enabled at 30 seconds, which I personally feel like is pretty quick. Now I understand that they want the phone's display to turn off to save battery, but at the same time, 30 seconds isn't too long. I typically do between 1 and 2 minutes. And then of course, since I am making all of these videos, I have it set at 30 minutes so that the display doesn't turn off while I'm actually creating a video. But again, I would recommend trying out these different times to see which one you prefer instead of just going with the default. And then we have another option here called refresh rate. Now this device only maxes out at 60 Hertz for the display. That's certainly not a bad thing by any means, but there are some other TCL devices like the TCL 30 XE 5G that actually do support 90 Hertz, but essentially 60 Hertz is enabled here by default. But if you want to, you can switch things over to smart refresh state, and it will actually save you some power on the device, which in return will give you better battery life. Now, I'm not sure how much of a difference this really is going to make, but it might be worth giving it a try. Now, with the TCL 30 V5G, there are quite a few animations when using this phone. So for example, going into the app drawer, there's an animation. Going to the camera app, there's an animation. Going to pretty much any app for that matter, there's an animation. So if you're going to the settings, again, an animation. So if you don't want those animations and you want the device to run a bit faster, then you can actually disable those via accessibility. So you're going to go to the settings, you're going to go down to accessibility all the way at the bottom here. And there's quite a few options here, but you're going to head down to remove animations and then enable that. And then now, when navigating around the phone, you can see that there are pretty much no animations at all. So it does make things run a lot faster, that's for sure. Obviously, you're still limited at the actual speed of the phone itself in the sense that the processor is only so powerful, but at least when it comes to animations, you are saving time by cutting that out here. So I know that some people prefer animations. I know for me, it is kind of a nice touch to have, but at the same time, I do get the appeal of having no animations at all. And then of course, if you want to bring the animations back, you can easily do that as well. Now with the TCL 30 V5G, we have the 3-button traditional Android navigation enabled by default. And I know that many people are still a fan of using this, which I don't blame you because it's pretty straightforward and intuitive. But at the same time, this phone does support gesture navigation. And if you do still want to use the 3-button navigation, there are some different ways that you can further customize this to your liking. So let me show you how to do all that. So what you're going to do is pull down the shade, go to the settings, go up to search. You're going to type in nav, let that load, and then you'll see right there system navigation. Go right there again, and you'll see enabled right now, which is pretty obvious since you see the bar down there, but we do have the button navigation enabled, and then we have the option here to switch the buttons around. So if you want the back button on the right side and recent apps on the left, you can do that, which is pretty cool. Then we also have gesture navigation. So once that's enabled, you'll see that instead of having those 3 buttons on the bottom here, we just have a small line. So essentially how this works is that you swipe up to go home, you swipe partially up to go to your recent apps, and then to go back, you swipe from the side. Now there's actually one more additional option here. So you're gonna go to More, and essentially this is kind of a hybrid between 3-button navigation and also gesture navigation. So once you enable this, you'll see that we now have 3 lines at the bottom of the display. The middle one will take you home. The one on the left side will take you to your recent apps. And then the one on the right side here will take you back. So kind of confusing, I suppose, but if that's what you want, then it is there for you. But I'm gonna switch it back to the traditional 3-button Android navigation. But this concludes my video on TCL 30 V5G tips and tricks and hidden features. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it to be helpful, and if you did, definitely give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. But I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one.